I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Right now, internet is flooded with one phrase, the Epstein files. Everyone is chasing them. Everyone is reacting to them. But most people don't even stop to ask a basic question. What is Epstein? Is it a document, a code name, or a secret operation? No. Epstein is a person. His name was Jeffrey Epstein. And before we talk about missing papers, redactions, and unanswered questions, there is something far more important we need to understand. How did this man become powerful enough that governments still control what you are allowed to see? Because what if Jeffrey Epstein was never the real story? A school teacher becomes a billionaire. A convicted trafficker walks free. Cameras fail, guards sleep, and 200,000 pages of evidence vanish. That's not coincidence. That's a system protecting itself. The government calls it suicide. But suicides don't usually require removed cellmates, sleeping guards, and broken cameras all at the same time. Jeffrey Epstein didn't die with answers. He died before he could speak. Let's see the making of an unlikely power broker. Epstein didn't start rich. He didn't come from power. He didn't come from privilege. He was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York, middle class. His father worked for the city parks department. By all appearances, an ordinary life. In the 1970s, Epstein taught math and physics at an elite private school in Manhattan, despite not holding a college degree too. What he did have was access to the children of the wealthy and to their parents. Then, without a public track record, without visible clients, and without a traditional financial history, Epstein re-emerged in the 1980s as a powerful financial operator. Private money, no transparency, and no explanation. From that point forward, he accumulated extraordinary wealth, properties, private aircraft, and international access, while leaving very little evidence of how that money was actually made. By the 1990s, investigators say Epstein had built what they later described as so-called the system. Across his properties, New York, Florida, and the private island, dozens of influential names repeatedly appeared in flight logs, calendars, contact books, and witness testimony. Politicians, billionaires, royal associates, celebrities, academics, and even global power brokers. Many of these individuals were never charged. Some were never formally questioned. Survivors described systemic sexual abuse, psychological coercion, and manipulation primarily targeting underage girls and vulnerable young women. This was not random misconduct. It was organized, repeated, and sustained through silence. Multiple victims testified that abuse occurred in environment where power was visibly present, creating fear, obedience, and lifelong trauma. This wasn't about desire, it was about control. Epstein didn't just exploit victims, he created situations where the truth would be too dangerous for powerful people to allow out into the open. Now, let's slow down. Was it a really suicide? Because if Epstein's death was a suicide, then the facts should support that conclusion. So let's examine the facts. Epstein was taken off suicide just days after a report prior incident without a clear public explanation. His cellmate was removed, leaving him alone despite protocols requiring increased supervision. The guards assigned to check on him failed to perform required rounds. Both guards at the same time fell asleep. And in one of the most secure federal detention facilities in the US, the cameras monitoring the area outside malfunctioned. So no usable footage. For the suicide explanation to hold, you would have to believe that monitoring was removed, protocols were ignored, guards fell asleep, and cameras failed all at once in the same place in the same night. And that is not an accusation, that is an unanswered question. And no chance for the public to hear what he might have said and the oath. Officially, the case ended, but investigation it never did. Years later, under intense public pressure, the government released what it called the Epstein files. Millions of pages, it sounded like transparency, but it wasn't. This was a controlled release, what experts refer to as a limited hangout. Over 200,000 pages were completely backed out. The official reasons were victim privacy and national security. How do decades old crimes of a so called private citizen threaten national security unless those crimes involved people or systems still in power? What remains confirms one thing: Epstein was not acting alone. Because this release was not meant to expose everything, it was meant to close the conversation. After the partial release of the files, another wave followed. Some of these rumors point to emails and discussions attributed to Epstein's wider circle, where ideas about reversing aging, longevity, and even blood based experiments were casually discussed. These claims remain unverified, but their existence raises a different and important question. Why were conversations about extreme anti aging ideas happening around a man already surrounded by secrecy, protection, and unchecked power? So, here is the question no one wants to ask out loud. If this was only about Jeffrey Epstein, why control the timing of the release? Why now? Why redact so much? Why decide this moment was the right time for transparency? Is it because something much bigger is already in motion? Is it a global shift? Another engineered crisis? A conflict large enough to reset the whole power of the world? Or technologies advancing so fast from surveillance to artificial intelligence that yesterday's crime suddenly needed to disappear from public focus? Or is it something even deeper than war, pandemics, or technology? Because history shows one thing very clearly. When government release old secrets in a controlled way, it's rarely about the past. It's about preparing the public for what comes next. So ask yourself, do we need to hide anything larger than Jeffrey Epstein? Of course there is. This appears to be just a cover-up. Something worse may yet to come, or something far deeper is being detected. If you want part 2, where we investigate the possible scenarios, the timing, and who benefits if the world looks another way, comment part 2. Because the moment they want you to stop asking questions is usually the moment you should start asking even harder. This is the Unmasked Intent.